welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector. Today we're going to do something different. I'm going to start something that I'm going to try to do weekly or bi-weekly, depending on time. So if you watch this channel, you're new to this channel, as you can see, I've shared my love of Halloween. I've shared my love of Kiss, horror in general, and music in general. So I thought, you know what? I fell in love with music at an early age. Fortunately, I remember listening to all the doo-wop bands and the music of the 50s and the 60s from my father. My mother a little bit. My father was more into music than my mother. Actually, my father liked old country and Irish music, which I still love to this day. So he introduced me to all that. But growing up in the 70s, I fell in love with 70s music and beyond. Obviously, I'm a huge Kiss fan. I just love 70s music in general, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. I do like 60s, but I thought maybe let's start with the 70s first. Maybe we'll visit the 60s because I probably can pick easily 10 albums from each year in the 60s, but I'll try. But 70s, easy to pick 10. I could have picked more than 10 for every year of the 1970s. So let's start picking my favorite 10 albums from 1970. Now, I have a very eclectic taste in music, so you might have something that's very calm, then something that's way the fuck out of left field. Actually, right field, because I'm grabbing my right arm. But it's all a matter of taste. I like all types of music. So, like I said, this is simply mine. And do me a favor. Throw your favorite 10 in the bottom in the comments, because I like to hear it. Because it's nice to see other people's taste in music. Some people are just straightforward. That's it. This is all I listen to. I listen to rock. They don't deviate outside of that rock bubble. You know, they don't listen to maybe classic country or country, jazz, top 40. Nope. They're just... And that's okay. That's your personal taste. I get it. But me, I'm all over the fucking place. So when I started looking through the albums that released in 1970, I was like, oh shit, I could have easily did more than 10. And it's all you got the biggies on here, but there's also a couple of curveballs. So let's do this. So my number 10 released on February 9th, 1970 from band that I've loved, it's not misunderstood. It's just they're an acquired taste. So the seventh studio album from the band, The Mothers of Invention, featuring one of my favorite artists of all time, Frank Zappa, Burnt Weenie Sandwich. Now, of course, Zappa got a little bit more different when he started doing all his own stuff, but Mothers of Invention was definitely an acquired taste because they could just go on these rants and jams for forever. And I enjoyed that. I just put it on in the background and just mellow you out. And Burnt Weenie Sandwich has got some classics on it. Some standouts are like WPLJ, Overture to a Weekend in Berlin, Igor's Boogie. It's just some crazy, crazy shit on there. And if you're a fan of it, you know where I'm coming from. There's some great albums from Mothers of Invention. And while I love the Mothers of Invention, I kind of do prefer Zappa's solo stuff afterwards, but iconic album that came out, and I had this just make sure I got it on this list. My number 9, released on November 4th, 1970, the third studio album from this all gone way too early artist, one of the most influential artists of all time. I'm talking about David Bowie, the man who sold the world. This album, I'm a big proto-punk fan. I love, you'll see who appears on this high up on this list. I was a big, I like glam music. I did a big punk rock phase I went through in the 80s and discovered a lot of the band from the 70s. And David Bowie was just, I mean, he's one of those people who just kept reinventing himself. And every time he reinvented himself, it was something new and interesting. And The Man Who Sold the World, I mean, it would have been influential if it came out today. And this came out in 1970. I mean, a lot of people probably know The Man Who Sold the World. Unfortunately, a whole generation knows it as Nirvana doing it, which is fine because it probably maybe introduced people to this album that didn't know anything about it, and maybe they went back that generation and became David Bowie fans. So when I first heard this, it took me right back to the first time I heard the Rolling Stones, their Satanic Majesty's Request, which was sort of like the Rolling Stones' answer to Sgt. Pepper, and I guess it really didn't take off like Sgt. Pepper did, obviously, but it's really creepy and different, and I love it. It's one of my favorite Stones albums, truth be told. I can put that shit on all the time and just enjoy it in the background. It's awesome. And I'm a big Kiss fan, and that album gave us 2000 Man, which appeared on Kiss's Dynasty, because Ace Frehley did a cover of it. And go back and listen to the original version, and it sounds nothing like the cover from Dynasty. So interesting. But that's what it took me to. And when I listen to it, it always takes me back to that. But if you haven't heard The Man Who Sold the World, you don't know what you're missing. Go check it out. My number 8, released on June 5th, 1970, the 4th studio album from this extremely influential band as well. A lot of these bands are just iconic. A lot of them in the Hall of Fame. Actually, when I'm done here, I'm going to look and see which ones aren't in the Hall of Fame that are on this list. And of course, I'm talking about Deep Purple and rock. Now, I love metal as well. And this, of course, one of the architects of metal, one of my favorite guitar players, the most eclectic, I keep using that word, eclectic guitar players of all time, and Richie Blackmore. And how could you not? The screaming vocals of Ian Gillan is just out of control. That band, soup to nuts, was just amazing, every player in the band. Songs like Speed King, Into the Fire. Oh, I put that album on, and I could just have a couple of beers, play it outside in the summertime, and just rock out to it. All right, my number 7 is, a lot of people are going to give me shit for its placement because it's not that low on my list. Well, not that high, I should say, because we're doing from 10 to 1 in that direction. But it's, truth be told, not one of my favorite Beatles albums, but it's Let It Be. The 12th and final album from the Fab Four, the greatest, arguably the greatest and most influential band in history. I mean, everything that's on here it came after them and because of them. But it's really not my favorite Beatles albums. I mean, if I ever did a ranking of Beatles albums, yeah, this would be on the list probably, but it would be really, really low. It's not a bad album. It gave us some great shit, Long and Winding Road, Get Back, some amazing keyboard work from the late, great Billy Preston. But just, of course, the iconic title track, Let It Be. It's not one of my favorite albums from them. It's not bad. But like I said, this is my personal taste, so don't give me shit. Everything that's higher on this list, simply I enjoy more. That's all. And number 6, speaking of iconic guitar players, released on September 23rd, 1970, Santana's Abraxas. I mean, this is just like a what's what of amazing guitar riffs and guitar playing. There's not much to say. Some of the songs on here are staples on classic rock that you're going to hear every single day. From Oyo Como Va, Samba Pati, and of course, if you put classic rock on, you're going to hear Black Magic Woman every day. So, amazing album, amazing artist who's still doing it out there, Santana. Now, this one was tough not to put it even higher on this list because I'm a huge fan of this highly influential band. Released on July 7th, 1970, the Stooges' Funhouse, their second studio album. Now, the Stooges, I found by accident, if I remember correctly. I remember being in a record store, record stores back in the early 80s, and I'm flicking through, and I had heard of the Stooges, and I didn't think much of it because, I don't know, you didn't hear them on the radio back then. And I knew who Iggy Pop was because I was starting to get into punk rock music, and I knew his connection to punk as the Stooges being a proto-punk band, and his collaborations with David Bowie. So I remember flicking through and I saw the first cover of the Stooges album, which is, if you look at it, it's sort of like the first album of Kiss. A lot of people tried to model their first album after the album cover of the Beatles, Meet the Beatles. And I saw it, I said, "Now this looks interesting." And then I saw the name Iggy Pop. I said, "All right." So I picked up the first Stooges album, fell in love with it, still love it to this day. And I remember going back, because I used to save up my money and go buy albums. There used to be a record store in the next town over, and actually one of them is still there to this day. I think shout out to Music Country in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. As I think it's still one of if not the oldest record store in the country. I could be wrong about that, but I remember reading an article, and they're still there. Unbelievably, I stop there every once in a while. It takes me down nostalgia lane because I bought all my records there, all my Kiss records back in the 70s and the 80s. Crazy shit. But the Funhouse, TVI, oh God, I love TVI. There's so many good songs on here. 1970, LA Blues. I mean, and a lot of the songs are long. There's very few songs. There's not a lot of tracks on here, but they're long. And if you get the deluxe expanded set because it's that much better. So, love me the Funhouse from the Stooges. My number 4, released on July 1st, 1970. And the 4th studio album from the band Traffic, the iconic band Traffic. John Barleycorn Must Die. Now, I knew of Traffic, and I knew a lot of the songs that were on this album, but I never owned it probably till probably early 90s, on a vacation with my cousin, who's a couple years older than me, and both of us were big music junkies, still are to this day. And he put it on, and I'm listening to it, and I'm hearing Glad, Freedom Rider, Empty Pages. I'm hearing all this stuff you hear on the radio, and I'm like, oh wow, this is all in the same album. And I hear the song John Barleycorn Must Die, which is eerie and very creepy, and you never hear that on the radio. And over the week, we listened to it a few more times, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, wow, this is a great album. And even now, to this day, every once in a while, I'll sit outside, turn the lights off, put John Barleycorn Must Die, pour myself a beer, have a cigar. It's just so fun to listen to. My number 3, released on February 9th, 1970, the same day as Burnt Weenie Sandwich, by the way. The 5th studio album from the band The Doors, Morrison Hotel, which has arguably has my favorite The Doors song on it in Peace Frog. Love Peace Frog. And Roadhouse Blues. I mean, this album is just like, holy shit. It's a shame of what happened because I think they were still pumping out some amazing shit. So yeah, Peace Frog is my favorite Doors song. Love that. I used to play it in one of the bands I played guitar in years ago. It's a cover. I gotta trick the guys in my band and see if we can bring that out. Love Peace Frog. And of course, Roadhouse Blues, which we played tons of time. Everybody's played Roadhouse Blues. I'm a big Glorious the Cult fan. Go check out their version of it. Love it. And the creepy Waiting for the Sun. So much stuff about Morrison Hotel and go on. But that's why I made number 3 on here, man. It's just amazing from front to back. My number 2, released October 5th, 1970. The 3rd album, which is right in the title of it, from Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin 3. And Led Zeppelin 3 was cool because the first album was very, very bluesy. The second album seemed to get a little bit more harder edged. And then this one got very, very experimental and eclectic as far as I'm concerned. And I love it. I mean, who doesn't love the album cover too, right? For those that own the original album, where you could turn the thing in there and the things would move inside of it, it was just awesome. Great stuff. Love that. Immigrant Song, Friends, Celebration Day, Out on the Tiles, Gallows Pole. Just unbelievable. Crazy shit. I still remember the first time I heard Zeppelin. It had to be from my cousin who introduced me to John Barleycorn Must Die. I want to say it was 77, the first time I heard him. And I heard Black Dog. And I was already a big Kiss fan and listened to music, top 40 at the time. And I heard Black Dog and I was just like, well, who the hell is this? Oh, and fell in love with Zeppelin. And of course, my number 1, because this is next to Kiss. I mean, of course, Led Zeppelin's up in there. There's my top 5 bands of all time. And then just fell in love with these guys. And I was because I play guitar, a huge Tony Iommi fan. So for me, second album from Black Sabbath, released on September 18th, 1970, Paranoid. There's not a song on this album that's a stinker. From War Pigs, Planet Caravan, Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom. Let's see, what else am I missing on here? Rat Salad, which is just an instrumental, but just crazy shit. Electric Funeral. Just everything from... This is not an album you skip. Of course, the title track is like the most iconic thing, and I've played it in bands for forever. There's nothing... Iron Man, for Christ's sake, it's one of the basic building blocks of riffs you have to learn alongside Smoke in the Water when you pick up the guitar. So this album is just unbelievable. And to this day, still, I put it on. It's hard pressed that I don't listen to it from front to back. And you just don't see, well, I guess now I'm considered an old fart, bands that are like this anymore, that come out with an album that basically every song is iconic. It's just amazing. A lot of these bands on here are like that. So like I said, so that's my number 1. Let me look down my list. See if there's any bands in here. Let's see. Sabbath is in the Hall of Fame. Zeppelin's in the Hall of Fame. The Doors are. Traffic is. The Stooges are. Santana is. Of course, the Beatles. Deep Purple is. David Bowie. The only... Well, you can go Burnt Weenie Sandwich because it's technically the Mothers of Invention and they're not in there, but Frank Zappa is. So, yeah, this reads like a who's who of who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Which is really the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole. So I hope you enjoyed my favorite 10 albums of 1970. I'll hopefully get around to doing my favorite albums from 1971 in the next week or two, depending on time. Do me a favor. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your favorite Your favorite 10 albums from 1970. Could be any genre, because as you can see, this is a little bit all over the place. Doesn't have to. That's why I'm saying albums. I'm not saying your favorite rock albums, your favorite punk albums, your favorite country albums, your favorite top 40. No, your favorite albums. Just let me know. Maybe your taste is as eclectic as mine. Just look over here above all this. There's about 1,500 CDs here. I listen to everything from classical to jazz to punk. If I like it, I like it. I make no apologies about what I like. So that's it. If you like this kind of shit, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Helps people find this channel. Trying to spread out, do a little bit more music stuff in here. And if you like this, on this channel, you'll find music. You'll find stuff about Kiss, Halloween, horror, comedy, beer. Basically all the food groups. So hit that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. And until we meet again, hopefully in the next week or two, we'll do 1971. I'll talk to you soon.